Chapter 10 of A Different Cowboy by Joe Jones. A week goes by and Johnny has to stay at the hotel recovering from his injuries. He then returns to work again in town. He had been making good money, working long hours. The courthouse was finished and they had started building the community bank. That particular job paid even more because they had to build a vault inside to keep the robbers from stealing the money. The people who lived there were very hard-working. The locals wanted to build their town up right and quickly. Tucson was a stopping point for cowboys and pioneers on their way to California to look for gold during the Great Gold Rush. So it was a very busy city during the time. Just down the street, every day, Johnny could see more carpenters building another hotel. People were filling rooms as soon as one was built because so many people were coming through town. Many people camped outside of town because there was nowhere to stay anymore. Johnny and Tessa had gotten lucky to come into town when they did because the rest of the South was finding out quick about the West. They also had an abundance of whiskey, Johnny's favorite old poison. One day it rained, and Johnny came home early from work. He walks through the room door, soaking wet, and sees Tessa silently staring out of the window. "Hey, honey," he says. She continues to watch the raindrops run down the window onto the windowsill. "Tess?" says Johnny. "Huh? Oh, hey, Johnny. Everything okay, baby? You were kind of zoned out there for a second," says Johnny. "I've just been sitting here reading the Bible today." "I didn't know you brought that." "I didn't. Found it in the dresser drawer by the bed. You know they're building a church on the other side of town right now," says Tessa. "Oh yeah? I didn't know that. I haven't been to the other side of town yet." "You should see it sometime. It's nice. Well, the outside at least. I haven't ever been inside a church before." Johnny sits down beside her and takes off his boots. "Well, darling, that makes two of us. I've never wanted to. Why haven't you? You're the Christian here," Johnny asks. She looks at him and says, "They won't let me. Whites only. You gotta remember, Johnny, I've only been free so long. I spent my whole life as a slave. They didn't let us do nothing. I ain't got to see much in my lifetime like you have." "What about black churches, Tessa? Why not just go to one of those?" "Where, Johnny? Every time my people build our own, the white folks burn it down. They can't stand seeing us have nothing for our own. Even a place to worship the same God they taught us to believe in. Now tell me, Johnny, does that make any sense to you?" Johnny takes a deep breath and says, No, it don't." "Well, maybe one day you can go inside that church for me, Johnny, and just tell me what it's like on the inside. They say God is in there. It's His house, which also makes me wonder if they still going to heaven, burning down God's house like that. I would imagine He'd be pretty mad. Kind of how I was when those men tried to burn my house." "I understand," says Johnny. "I'm sorry that it's this way, Tess. You know if I could change it, I know you would, Johnny. I just want you to understand my side of life, how life is for me, you know." "You know, I got 3 children, Johnny." Johnny raises his eyebrows and says, "I didn't even know you had one. Where are they?" Tears start to run down her face like the rain running down the window she looks through, as she says, "I don't know anymore. One was taken at birth. I never had a chance to get to know him. And the other 2 I raised until they were 4. Then they took them away from me and sold them." "What happened to their father?" asked Johnny. "The one I had, his father was another slave who lived in the same cottage as me. He forced himself on me and got me pregnant. He was killed not long after. The other two I had was twins, a boy and a girl. Their father was a plantation owner. He forced himself in me over and over. Whenever his wife wasn't around, or sometimes when she was around, didn't really matter to him. As she found out he had been with me and tried to start a fuss, he'd slap her and lock her in the room, and still come for me again. The last time he did that to me, I kept trying to fight him off. He was laying on top of me and pulled my dress up. He stuck the nose of his pistol inside me and swore if I didn't stop resisting, he'd pull the trigger. At that point in my life, I didn't care. I felt like I had nothing else to live for. He had already sold my 2 babies the week before, and I wanted to die. He ended up busting a bottle over my head, knocking me out instead. I woke up in the hay inside a barn. Shortly after that, we got word that the war was over and that we was free. That was back when I lived in Georgia. Then me and my pa came to Texas together and moved in that house he bought. She wipes the tears from her eyes and tries to stop crying. Johnny pulls her into him and says, "You've had a very rough life, Tessa, but it's all right now. You don't have to be so strong around me. You can fall. I'm your man. You take a break from being strong and just let it out. I know you're hurting, dear, deep inside, and I'm here to help you through every moment. We're going to make it through this together, my love, no matter what it takes." He looks at her and says, "Hey, why don't we go out tonight, down to the saloon? We can have a drink and then head back to the hotel." "Are you sure that's safe, Johnny? For other people to see us together like that?" He smiles and quotes what she had said to him the night before they were attacked. "I believe our love can change the world. I believe it's worth dying for, and I'm trying to keep it alive." "Aw, Johnny." She smiles through her tears as her heart overfills with love for him. "Okay, Johnny," she says. "We'll have a good time," he tells her. Night falls and they both get dressed up. "You look so beautiful," he tells her. She smiles. "Are you sure this is a good idea, Johnny?" "I got my pistol on me. There ain't gonna be no trouble," he assures her. They ride Ranger bareback together down the road to the saloon. As they get closer, they can hear the laughter and yelling. Johnny, sitting behind Tessa, leans up and kisses her on the cheek. "It's okay, darling." He helps her down off Ranger, and they walk into the saloon holding hands. Tessa had never been inside a saloon before. She observes all the cowboys, the profanity in the air, and the girls of the night all over the cowboys who were playing cards at the tables in the corner. An old familiar residence to Johnny. Before he met Tessa, he was in the saloon every night back home. They walk up to the bar with no one really noticing them holding hands. Those who did would whisper something to their friends but wouldn't cause a scene about it like most places. Most people were just there to have a good time. They sit down together at the bar and the barkeeper walks up and asks, "What'll it be?" Johnny looks at Tessa and asks, "What would you like?" She gazes at all the shiny bottles and shrugs her shoulders. "I ain't ever drank before. I don't know what's good." Johnny says, "Let us get 2 beers, please." The bartender slides 2 mugs of room temperature beer down the bar to them. Johnny gives one to Tessa and says, "A toast to us and our love." The mugs cling into each other and Johnny drinks his down in a matter of seconds. Tessa watches him drink his completely and laughs. "Try it, honey," he says. She takes a sip and makes a sour face. Ah, what is that? That tastes like bread water or something. Johnny laughs out loud and says, Okay, you don't like beer, I see. Let's try something different. He orders 2 shots of whiskey, and again, they toast. And Johnny slings his back. So drink the whole thing at once? She asks. That's right, he tells her. He watches her as she does. Ooh, it burns as it goes down, but I kind of like it, she says. Johnny smiles and she says, Let's have another one. And they do. They get up and walk over to the dance area. Johnny begins to twirl her around on the dance floor. Their eyes are locked on each other, and nothing else in the world mattered at that moment in time except their love for one another. Johnny pulls Tessa in close and they laugh out loud. Tessa, from the moment I seen you, I knew I would love you till the day I died. She smiles and laughs and says, I feel amazing and lightheaded. You're drunk, he tells her, laughing. She leans in and they passionately kiss, and she says, I love you more than you know, Johnny. He smiles and says, Let's go sit back at the bar, honey. But as Johnny turns around, he bumps into someone standing behind him. Marshall, says Johnny. The marshal stands there with a paper in his hand, and 2 other cowboys stand next to him. He holds the paper up to show Johnny and Tessa what it reads. In big letters, the words, Wanted, Johnny and Tessa for the death of a lawman. Marshal, it was self-defense. He was trying to kill us first, Johnny tried to explain to the marshal, but the marshal wasn't having it. The 2 cowboys point a gun at Tessa and Johnny. They raise their hands and the marshal removes Johnny's gun from his waist. The marshal examines the pistol and says, This is a nice 6-shooter you got here. Will go good above my fireplace when you're dead tomorrow. Tessa looks at Johnny in fear. Oh yeah, says the marshal. Y'all's crime is punishable by death, to be carried out immediately at sunrise. Y'all be hanged in front of the courthouse for the whole town to see. Enjoy your last night together in jail. And with that, the marshal took them across the street and threw them into 2 different cells right next to each other. He laughed as he locked the cell doors and said, There's no way y'all are getting out of those bars, so I'll see y'all in the morning. I'm going home to bed. And he walked out of the jailhouse. 2 hours go by and Johnny looks at Tessa through the bars that separate them. By now their drunkenness had worn off. Tessa, I'm sorry I got you into this. I shouldn't have made you come out here. Made me come out here. Johnny, I'm a grown woman. I decided to follow you. No man makes me do anything I don't want to do these days, and I make damn sure of that. We're here together, Johnny. That's right, Tessa. And also, darling, remember when you told me you saw Jesus? Well, I've been thinking, ever since you told me that, I've been thinking a lot about that. And a lot about the afterlife. Tessa looks over at Johnny. And the thought ran through my mind that if I die or you die, and I'm not going where you're going, then I'd never see you again, for all eternity. And I just couldn't imagine a place where you're not there. I guess that would be hell. Tessa moves over to the bars and puts her hands through the bars into Johnny's cell, and they hold hands together. So, Tessa, I want to make you this promise that if there is life after this, darling, I want to be there to meet you with a warm, wet kiss. Tears fill Tessa's eyes. What are you saying, Johnny? I'm saying your relationship with Christ has touched me. It's changed me and inspired me. I want to know this Jesus you talk about. Praise God, Tessa says as she looks up at the ceiling of the jailhouse. She smiles so big at Johnny, and he says, "But I don't know if I can go to heaven because I've killed men before and gotten drunk and lied and cheated." Tessa looks at him and says, "That's why he died for you, so you could be forgiven, Johnny." They get down on their knees, still holding hands, through the bars, and Tessa leads Johnny through a prayer to ask Jesus into his heart. It may have been Tessa and Johnny's last day on earth, but Tessa was the happiest she'd ever been, knowing that the man she loved was now saved. 3 hours go by and Tessa had fallen asleep. Johnny, still awake, watched over her. He gets up and walks to the corner of his cell and once again hits his knees. "God, it's me, Johnny. I know this is only my second time ever talking to you, but Tessa tells me that you're my father now, so, Father, I have just one request. Please, Lord, just make a way where we can get out of this situation. I love this woman almost as much as I know you do, and Tessa told me that nobody could love her more than you, Lord. So, Lord, Tessa deserves to live. If we can't both get out of this situation alive, please let her go and just take me instead. Let her live the rest of her life free and in peace. In Jesus' name, amen." Before he could even get up off of his knees, he heard a noise coming from the back of the cell wall, then a hoarse neighing. "Oh, the marshal's back. It must be time," he thinks to himself. Then he hears a loud bang. This wakes up Tessa, and she sits up and looks at Johnny. The entire back cell wall is then ripped away from the building. Planks are scattered all over the ground. Johnny sees a wagon with a rope tied to the back of it. Someone had connected the rope to the wall, then had 2 horses that were connected to the wagon rip the wall away. A voice came crying out from inside the wagon. "Johnny and Tessa! I'm busting y'all out! Let's go!" Johnny helps Tessa into the wagon and then climbs in himself. The wagon takes off into the dark. Johnny holds Tessa in his arms, thanking God. He looks at the stranger to properly thank him, but it's so dark inside the wagon he can't see his face. "Stranger, who are you, and why did you save us?" The stranger sits there quietly. "I told you, Johnny, I owed you one." Johnny looks puzzled that the stranger knows his name. The stranger lights a match and holds it up to reveal who he is. "Drifter?" he says. "That's right." The drifter looks at Tessa and explains. "Johnny took me and my family in that night we had that really bad storm that destroyed half of the town. I had knocked on a dozen doors and the storm was getting worse. They all turned me down except for Johnny. If not for him, my family and I would have lost our lives that night. I never had a chance to really thank Johnny. My family and I was on our way to California to dig for gold. We stopped in Tucson on the way, and I heard y'all were here. I've been waiting to run across you to shake your hand and properly thank you, but could never find you. Guess y'all don't get out much. But then news came that y'all were arrested and in the jailhouse, so I knew what I had to do." "Wow," Johnny says. His excitement quickly turns opposite when he thinks of his horse and companion. "Oh no, they got Ranger, my horse. I'll never see him again." "Nonsense, Johnny. Ranger is one of the horses pulling this wagon right now." Johnny is relieved once again. "Hey, if you're in the back of the wagon with us, then who's up front directing the horses, controlling the wagon?" asked Johnny. The drifter smiles and pulls open the flap, revealing who's in the front. "Hey, cowboy," a deep voice calls from front. "Sam? Man, am I glad to hear that voice. I'll be damned. Did you just show up tonight?
Nope. I've been here about 3 weeks following y'all around, just hiding out, keeping an eye on y'all. My motel room was right next to y'all's.
So you were the one knocking the picture frames off our wall the whole time, Johnny yells. Everyone laughs.
Hey, I'm single for a reason.
Where are we headed, gentlemen? Asks Johnny. Sam looks back at Johnny and Tessa and says,
Home. To a new beginning.
This completes the final chapter, Chapter 10, of A Different Cowboy by Joe Jones. You may be thinking this is the absolute end for Tessa and Johnny, but it's not. This is only book 1 of a 2-book series, A Different Cowboy. Please be patient and wait for book number 2, as it is coming soon, and book number 1 is being printed right now and published so that you can have your own physical copy and read along. Thank you, and let me know what you think in the comments below.